All of western Washington is under a winter storm warning as areas deal with ice, snow, and freezing rain. The weather is creating dangerous conditions on the roadways, leading to several accidents overnight. Plus, hundreds of flights have been canceled, leaving passengers frustrated and stranded ahead of the holiday weekend. This morning, we bring you team coverage on what airlines are doing to get passengers to their destinations, how your morning commute could be impacted, and your weekend forecast, of course. But first, let's get to Angelique, who is in Seattle with a closer look at the conditions outside your window. Angelique.
Oh, Christine, it is slick out here. Our photojournalist Doug Dillon had me stand on top of this sort of hill here just to demonstrate how slippery it is. I mean, slipping and sliding everywhere on this road here. We're at the intersection here of Pike, 2nd Avenue and Union Street, excuse me, and it is completely one just giant sheet of ice. Even this morning at this 8 o'clock hour, still a lot of ice here. As you can see behind me, this road, it was slushy earlier when that rain was coming down, and now it's actually turning back into ice. So again, you're going to want to keep it slow if you have to leave. Earlier this morning, we actually saw some people that were just running the red lights because they just couldn't stop. And even this morning, we've seen some people that are probably just going a little faster than they should have. So some things to keep in mind in all this slush is that King County Metro buses, as we've been saying, are suspended at this point, and also suspended Access Paratransit is also suspended today. The Seattle streetcar is currently suspended on both the First Hill and South Lake Union lines, and demand services like Community Ride, Community Van, and Via are also suspended today. The good news is that Sound Transit Light Link Rail is currently operating. So if you do have to get somewhere, your best bet is to take the public transportation, because these sidewalks, these roads are just really slippery this morning, and it might not change until those temperatures, like Christopher has been saying, has been heating up. And another thing I want to point out is that you don't really realize how hilly Seattle actually is. We think of hills as Capitol Hill, we think of Queen Anne, but even here in the downtown area, it's even the smallest inclination like this right here. I never thought that this was very hilly before, and I am just really sliding down it. So that's the message here. If you don't have to leave the house, you shouldn't leave the house this morning. But for now, reporting live here in downtown Seattle, Angelique, King 5 News.
Angelique, it's hard to tell that you don't have skates on the way you're sliding down the road right now, but you're wearing boots, right? Well, for those of you, look, yeah, she is wearing boots. But the thing about it is we're dealing with some really icy conditions right now. So that's something to be mindful of. And now we're dealing with closures on Highway 2. So this is out in Gold Bar. And look at this picture that WashDOT tweeted out where you can see trees on the road. You can see snow out there as well. So down trees and ice giving some trouble there. So Highway 2 is closed from just west of Gun Road, which is milepost 29, to just east of Fur Road, which is milepost 33. So you see that purple line for about 2 miles. That's in both directions. So just keep that in mind if you're traveling in that area. And take a look at I-5 near Highway 516. It looks like an ice skating rink. You could see just white on the freeway right now, but you can see a few cars out there. If you don't have to be out there, please stay at home. WashDOT is urging that you just stop non-essential travel at the moment. So coming up in a few moments, we'll talk about how this isn't just going to slow you down on the roads. We're hearing about delays on some of those transit routes as well.
Time now, 8:04 on this First Alert Friday. We are continuing to see that wintry precipitation move across the area. And folks, it's transitioned into freezing rain. That is causing those icing issues really area-wide, especially from Everett down to Tacoma and Olympia, seeing some very, very tricky conditions. Live look at radar, notice that we are seeing that activity continuing across the area. Now, I know you're probably focused in on Everett, Seattle, Tacoma, and you don't see much in the way of that pink wintry mixture of freezing rain. However, we're still seeing some freezing drizzle out there, just not being detected by radar. But notice just to the west, we're seeing a secondary area of moisture develop, and that is that freezing rain, and that's going to work its way toward Tacoma, Seattle, Everett over the next half an hour to an hour. And with temperatures still below freezing, we are going to see additional icing issues, not only on the roadways, but on the sidewalks, the stairs, any elevated surface, power lines, trees. So we're tracking some pretty big issues as the moisture continues to move into this cold air mass. Now, the good news is temperatures are slowly increasing for most of western Washington, so we will climb above freezing by around lunchtime, but until then, we're going to stay below freezing. And one thing I want to point out is Seattle had increased to 27. That temperature has fallen back down to 26. That's not what we want to see. We want to get closer and closer to that 32-degree mark. We should see that hit 32 around lunchtime. We'll have more details on this winter weather event and what we can expect for the holiday weekend coming up here in a couple of minutes. Christine?
All right, Christopher, and we do have an update on some significant power outages. Right now, thousands are without power in Snohomish and King counties. Puget Sound Energy is now reporting more than 7,200 outages. There are some outages happening in North Bend, Greenwater, and the Durham areas. And Snohomish PUD is reporting more than 5,700 people without power right now. Most of the outages are in the Gold Bar area and north of Everett. We will continue to watch for this situation. And in San Juan County this morning, nearly everyone on the islands is without electricity. That is nearly 15,000 customers. Widespread outages began at around 5 p.m. last night, but we did get an update a few hours ago that Puget Sound Energy has made repairs and the lights are coming back on for most people. We caught up with Michael DeVarian, who says his family has no wood-burning heat, just propane, and they've been snuggling with their dogs to keep warm.
It's cold, no doubt about it, and we're so far okay. I kind of worry about some of the other people on the island who may have less insulation and so forth, but this is a place that everybody takes care of everybody else, so I think people are checking on each other and, trying to make sure everybody's okay.
No word yet on the official cause of that outage. Well, some breaking news at SeaTac Airport this morning. One runway has just reopened. We know it's very troublesome out there right now. Word of the changes at the airport is difficult for thousands of people trying to make it home for the holidays. King 5's Kayla Lafferty joins us live from the airport. Kayla, you've been there live at the airport for days. What is the situation right now as we look ahead to Christmas Eve?
Well, let me show you one thing here. Looking at the security lines looks a whole lot different than it typically does during the holidays. Pretty much empty, even though one runway is now open at SeaTac. It's still really iffy on which flights are able to actually take off, so most of them still canceled here out of SeaTac. One place it's not busy at all, though, is over here. Alaska has changed some of the the ticketing counters and the place you check bags into rebooking stations to help the thousands and hundreds of passengers that had their flights canceled. So they're working on it. But we're told basically by the airport this morning to just keep checking with your airline if you're concerned about your flight, which most people should be at this point, because now that they have one runway open, there may be some flights leaving. But once again, Alaska Airlines, all flights before noon have already preemptively been canceled. So not only is there an issue with keeping runways clear, but also planes need to be de-iced so those can safely land and take off, and de-icing planes can be pretty challenging. But SeaTac told us that about 6 flights had to be diverted to other airports because they were already up in the air before the stoppage earlier this morning. Perry Cooper with SeaTac says having all 3 runways completely shut down is actually unprecedented, and it took a lot of work to get one of those runways back open.
We worked throughout the night to try and get all those de-iced, multiple passes through with our crews to get that unstuck. The whole priority number one is that we don't want to open it up until we got a good, safe surface.
Once again, if you're flying out on Alaska, all flights before noon still canceled, but the advice is to check with your airlines to see if your flights later on in the day are still going. Just because one runway is open doesn't mean all flights will be able to get out of here. So just keep checking on that. Live at SeaTac, Kayla Lafferty, King 5 News.